Good evening from New York. We are just days now from history in the making. Both the House and Senate expected in the next week or so to begin debate on sweeping revolutionary changes to the entire U.S. healthcare system. Changes voters endorse in poll after poll, including the one last election day. But in our fifth story tonight, one man today said he will stand, yell stop, and thwart history in the making. That man, former Democrat Connecticut Senator Joseph Lieberman, independent. From the voters, anyway. Not so much from Travelers Insurance or Aetna or Cigna or the Hartford or the other members of the insurance cartel headquartered in Mr. Lieberman's state. Lieberman announcing today he will break ranks with Democrats and give Republicans the one extra vote they need to prevent an up or down vote on a health care plan that includes the public option of a government-run insurance alternative. Here, in essence, is what Lieberman said. Just to begin debate on health care in the full Senate, Democrats need 60 votes. Lieberman said he will back Democrats there and allow debate to begin. When Democrats try to end the debate, however, and hold the actual vote, Republicans will filibuster, the procedural maneuver essentially prolonging debate indefinitely, stalling a vote into infinity. And on that vote, Lieberman says he will side with the Republicans, denying Americans an up or down vote on any health care plan that includes the public option, even though his home state has a public option, which covers about 10,000 of its citizens, that was introduced by its Republican governor. All this despite the fact Lieberman was essentially forgiven by Democrats and allowed to serve as a committee chairman even after he tried to elect John McCain as president. Today, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid was asked about the defection by Lieberman and suggested that after the debate starts, the bill may change enough that Lieberman's position on it would change as well.
I have the greatest confidence in Joe Lieberman's ability as a legislator, and he will work with us when this gets on the floor, and I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to do in the way of amendments, but Joe Lieberman is the least of Harry Reid's problems.
Lieberman today explained his opposition by saying the public option will be too costly. In fact, the public option would be paid for by premiums. According to the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, it would actually save taxpayers $100 billion. $100 billion. 2 months ago, Lieberman offered different rationales, including the public option's supposed unpopularity with the public, except a new NBC News poll today finding that 73% of Americans think people should have the choice of a public option. In his own state, 68% favor the public option, including 83% of Democrats, 73% of independents. And all those Republicans already have one. But his own state has other constituents, bigger people, if you will. Connecticut is insurance company ground zero. Lieberman has gotten more than $1 million in the last 5 years from the health insurance and medical sectors, $1 million that we know of. And if Senator Lieberman hopes to fend off Republican attacks in his 2012 campaign by supporting their filibuster, those Republicans today had another message, a message essentially admitting defeat, admitting Republicans cannot beat the public option in an up or down vote, so they will attack anyone who even allows it to be debated upon, let alone voted upon.
At some point, the majority leader will try to move to proceed to the bill. And I think it's appropriate to make the point at the outset that a vote on cloture on the motion to proceed to this bill will be treated as a vote on the merits of the bill. I think we all remember the Kerry campaign, and we all remember the difficulty of explaining to our constituents why we were for something before we were against it.
We're joined now live from Washington by Senator Ron Wyden, the Democrat of Oregon. Senator, thanks again for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
How many more times can Senator Lieberman get away with spitting in your party's face before Democrats say no more?
Keith, first of all, there is a long, long tradition of United States senators saying no until about 5 minutes before they say yes. As Harry Reid indicated, this debate is just starting. What we're going to do is focus on an issue that you and I feel strongly about. That's holding insurance companies accountable, making sure that all Americans have a chance to be part of a more competitive system that allows them to get a good break on their insurance. And that's what we're going to zero in on the days ahead.
The implication in what both Mr. Lieberman and to a greater degree Leader Reid said was that the bill might change in a direction more favorable to Mr. Lieberman. Do you think that's true, and do you think that's a good idea?
I want to make a change in the direction of something more favorable to the consumer. I think Harry Reid did the right thing yesterday, but I continue to be concerned about the public option, for example, being set up to fail. It's going to be made up of a lot of sick people, for example. It's going to be one risky risk pool. We're not going to have all Americans in it. Some people are going to opt out, and I just want to make sure that we have a chance to ensure that there's real competition in the healthcare system, not just have 10% of the people try to hold everybody in the insurance industry accountable.
All right, so what are you going to do to push forward in the other direction?
I'm going to keep working with Senator Reid. I've already indicated to him that I'm very concerned about the prospect of a risk pool made up of mostly sicker people, folks who've been unemployed, uninsured, underinsured. These are folks, Keith, who won't have had checkups, they won't have had preventive care, they won't have had good chronic care. It is a risk pool, as I look at it today, that no commercial insurer would possibly accept. What we've got to do is have bigger risk pools. We've got to have a healthier mix of individuals in the pool. That's the way I'm going to be pushing, and in the days ahead, the focus ought to be at the grassroots level on getting a better deal for the consumer, holding the insurance companies accountable.
Senator, what do you make of the minority leader's threat? Mr. McConnell is now representing this party that spent most of the early years of this century demanding up or down votes as if each one of them were the end of the world if they didn't get it.
My sense is that everybody is going to have to be able to describe what they're for, not what they're against. And I think a lot of Republicans, for example, when I go to the floor of the United States Senate and say everybody ought to have choices like members of Congress, I think that's going to be pretty hard to simply say no to. What we're going to be focusing on is the fact that every member of the United States Congress in Washington, D.C. has access to more than a dozen choices. The way the bill is written today, if your insurance company is abusing you, if they're ripping you off, they won't even pay a claim for a covered service, you'll get no choice at all. So I'm going to go to the floor and make sure that all Americans will get public choices and private choices like members of Congress.
Last question. Do you think the president is still staying out of this? If so, why? Is it appropriate given the amount of pressure he might be able to exert upon or chips he might be able to play with Senator Lieberman?
The president is not at all removed from this debate. He and his team are very involved. He's picking his spots. I've talked to him a number of times in the last few days. What we're all going to do is put the focus where it ought to be. That's holding the insurance companies accountable. I don't want to have, for example, a public option that it's an insurance lobbyist dream that's set up to fail. What we're going to do is keep pushing. The president will help as well for the biggest possible risk pools so we can hold the insurance companies accountable and a healthy mix of Americans who can get at that public option and the private choices.
All right. Good luck with that, Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon. As always, thanks for your time.
Thank you.